Often when I'm out in public doing training with Everett, I get asked, is he an emotional support animal? Is he a therapy dog? Is he a search and rescue dog? And the answer to all of those questions is no. A service dog's job is to do work or tasks for one individual's disability or disabilities. The Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, have published laws to define and protect the rights of handlers and their service dogs. I'll be referencing ADA laws throughout this video, and there's a link in the description to take you to their website if you'd like to read more. A handler, by the way, is the name for someone who works with or owns the service dog or service dog in training. So let's talk about who's allowed to have a service dog. To qualify for a service dog, you must be diagnosed with a condition that is classified as a disability. The ADA defines a person with a disability as someone with a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. Some examples of major life activities include learning, communicating, attending school or work, hearing, seeing, being mobile, and so many more. So a disability greatly limits one or more of these activities. Keep in mind you can't see all disabilities. You may be able to see if someone is blind and using a cane, or if someone is in a wheelchair or using crutches. But you can't always see autoimmune disorders, mental illnesses, psychiatric disabilities, cognitive impairments, learning disabilities, epilepsy, diabetes, and so many more. So if you see a handler with a service dog or service dog in training and they don't look disabled, don't be so quick to judge because they might have a disability or multiple disabilities that you just can't see. So now we know who qualifies for a service dog. So we're going to move on to what does a service dog do for their handler. Service dogs perform specific jobs called tasks. Performing these tasks is the main part in what makes a dog a service dog. A task is work that helps mitigate the handler's disability. A few examples are alerting their handler that they are about to have a medical episode, such as a drop or spike in blood sugar, an epilepsy episode, or a fainting episode. Responding to the medical episode. A dog may, after the handler faints, push itself under the legs of the handler so that the blood flow can return up to the heart and the brain, and the handler will wake up quicker. Or if the handler is having a seizure, a service dog may be trained to push its body under the handler's head to protect the handler's head from hitting the floor. Or the service dog may be trained to fetch a certain medication after alerting to a medical episode coming on. Alerting to an allergen in an environment that can put the handler at risk. Interruption tasks. A service dog can be trained to interrupt or disrupt the handler's dissociative episode or anxiety or panic attack or nightmares and harmful behaviors. Mobility tasks. Providing counterbalance for handler, providing forward motion for a wheelchair, pushing the handler to an upright position, providing forward motion for a handler regardless of the wheelchair, and much more. Help tasks. A service dog can be trained to help remove a handler's clothing, such as socks, sweatshirts, things like that, and assist them in putting the clothing into the washer or dryer machine, picking stuff up from the ground for the handler so that the handler doesn't have to bend over if that will cause an episode of pre-syncope or syncope, almost fainting, or if the handler is physically unable to bend down or reach down for it. These tasks are just the tip of the iceberg. If I were to tell you all the tasks that service dogs can be trained to perform, we'd be here all day. Check the description box for a link to a list of over 80 tasks that service dogs can be trained to perform. Okay, so we know who qualifies for a service dog, what a service dog does. Now, how about the rights of a service dog? Where can a service dog go? What can you ask a handler? First things first, what can you ask a handler about their service dog? There are 2 legal questions that you can ask a handler to determine if their dog is a service dog. Number 1 is the dog required because of a disability? And number 2, what work or task has the dog been trained to perform? Now, those are the only questions that you can legally ask. You may not ask for documentation or ID. IDs are fake. You cannot require that the dog demonstrate its task, and you cannot inquire about the nature of the handler's disability. Service dog IDs are not a thing. The ADA does not require every service dog or service dog in training to register with any company or any organization or have any form of identification. ADA law does not require an ID or certification for a service dog or their handler. So you can't ask someone to see their service dog ID because probably they won't have one because it's not a legal requirement. If you do see a handler whip out a service dog ID, it doesn't necessarily mean that their service dog is fake. They may just be misinformed about ADA laws. But you can ask them if their service dog is required because of a disability, and you can ask them what work or task has the dog been trained to perform, and then you can find out if the dog is really a service dog. Also, service dogs are not legally required to be trained professionally by an organization. Service dogs may be owner trained, which is what I'm doing.
Here's a little montage of public access training that I've done with Everett. He's about 10 weeks old in this first clip, doing so well with sit and learning to walk with me. In the second clip, he's about 3.5 months old, healing and learning to ignore new smells and objects. In the third, he's 5 months old, healing and ignoring my Gold Award team member walking by. And now he's 6 months old, ignoring another team member as he comes when called.
So, places that service dogs can go. Literally anywhere that's open to the public. Restaurants, grocery stores, hotels, clothing stores, the movie theater, your local salon or barber shop, hospitals, and even planes, thanks to the Air Carrier Access Act. So anywhere that the public is welcome, a service dog is also welcome. Even if there is a no dogs allowed sign on the business, service dogs are legally exempt from that because they're considered medical equipment, necessary medical equipment. Now, what about types of dogs? Maybe you've seen a Chihuahua in a service dog vest and thought, surely not. But any breed can be a service dog. Of course, you're not going to see small breeds doing mobility work, but small breeds can still perform an array of tasks to aid their handler. And yes, pit bulls and bulldogs and Dobermans and Mastiffs and Great Danes can all be amazing service dogs. It all comes down to the dog's temperament and training. Under ADA law, there is no discrimination about what breed can and can't be a service dog. All breeds are equally able to be a service dog. And speaking of temperament, check back later for a video about how to temperament test puppies. Alright, so a recap. A service dog helps one person with a diagnosed disability. A disability is a condition that limits one or more major life activities. A service dog performs tasks for one person, and one person only, and that's the handler. A service dog does not need an ID, certification, or professional training to be a service dog. A service dog can accompany their handler in any space open to the public. A service dog can be any breed. And if you need to identify a service dog, you may ask the handler 2 questions. If the service dog is required because of a disability, and what work or tasks has the dog been trained to perform. And this is a side note coming from one human to another. Please don't ask a handler about their disability. It is considered rude, and while you may have good intentions, maybe you're just curious, it puts the handler on the spot and may make them feel like they need to give more personal information than they're comfortable with sharing. Finally, never ever distract a service dog. That includes just making eye contact with them or making little kissy noises at them. All those things you might think are harmless, but it actually can divert the dog's attention away from its handler, and it can cause the dog to miss an alert. This puts the handler's condition and possibly life at risk. Also, distracting or interfering with a service dog is illegal, and so is denying access to a handler and their service dog to a public space. There can be legal ramifications from distracting or interfering with a service dog or denying access, so I suggest you don't do that. You only ask the 2 questions that you're allowed to ask, and then you move on with your day. Thank you so much for listening and learning about service dogs. Please share this video with someone else, a family member, a friend, an acquaintance on your Facebook, anyone that you think could benefit from learning about this. It really helps handlers out, and it also helps make the world a safer place for handlers and their service dogs. Thank you again for watching, and please check back on my channel for future videos. You can subscribe and turn on the bell notification if you would like, and that will let you know when I post the next video. I hope everyone stays happy and healthy. Bye!